Check the reactions again. There's one about the EA buyout. Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Actually, you know what? Since I was talking about this, since I'm really interested in this and I want to figure out what the fuck's going on here, yeah, we'll do this one first. EA agrees to a $55 billion buyout and is going private. Holy shit. They're going private. I thought they were just bought out. Do you know what going private means? That means there's no shareholders to be beholden to. That means fuck you and your investment. Take it somewhere else. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. Oh, God. We might just be about to watch the most based era of EA ever. Once upon a time, I want to remind you of this. A lot of people don't realize this. Once upon a time, EA were the good guys. A long, long time ago, EA made some of the best fucking games in the world. And then they became a pile of shit. They were even voted one of the most evil companies in existence by Americans. I hope we're seeing a return to form. I hope that whatever Arab prince or whatever Saudi group bought them are like, I hope they're guys who are like in their 40s who were playing EA games when they were kids and they were like, we need to fix this shit because no one else will. And you know when they were playing Mass Effect, all of them fucked Tali. Every single one of them. And I'm not going to explain that any further. You can figure that part out.
It has happened, fam. It has happened. It's locked and loaded. It is real. EA has posted an official statement describing how they have agreed to sell themselves, basically, to a group of investors as part of a buyout for $55 billion. And it is specifically a leveraged buyout, which I will explain momentarily.
You know what's really funny is I actually think EA is worth more than $55 billion. Right? Because as much as we dunk on them, as much as they keep on shitting out the worst RPGs in existence, from a pure business standpoint, every single year, they crank out a FIFA game, they crank out a Madden game, they crank out an NBA game, and people eat that shit up. And it's the same fucking game every year. And people still buy it. They were worth like 30-something billion. I think, yeah, but this is a full buyout, right? And taking it private. I would not be surprised if someone was willing to pay up to like 80 or 90 billion for the entire company if they could. Additional 20 billion was for what they were in debt. Wasn't EA in a $20 billion debt? Yes, and that's from being beholden to shareholders.
But in practice, what this basically just means is that EA is going to go from being traded on the public stock exchanges, and it's going to be privately held by this group of owners. So it's being taken off of the public trading platforms, and it's going to be privately held. The price that they're offering for it is pretty steep. Right before this news was leaked on Friday, it was trading at a market cap or company value of about $42 billion. All a market cap is if you take the total number of outstanding shares, which are the little pieces of the pie that make up the company, you take all of those pieces of the pie, so you take the whole pie, and you multiply it by the per share price, you get the market cap, which should, in theory, give you the value of the company based on what investors believe. And so the moment they revealed this, of course, the valuation goes up because they're saying they're willing to pay $55 billion for it. Now, on Friday, this leaked because of a Wall Street Journal article where basically somebody leaked and said, oh yeah, they're going to totally do this, and they're pricing it at $50 billion. Today it was revealed that it's actually $55 billion, which is wild. I think EA is a very well-run company financially.
Yes.
If you look up...
He's right. Financially, they are a fucking brutal monster that cannot be stopped. front end video game perspective, dog shit. Absolute trash. But that doesn't matter. Because every year they crank out profit. EA makes around $7 billion a year. Don't know what's the net income is. If they're making $7 billion a year, that means they can either downsize or they can just keep going. And they'll be fine. $7 billion a year is fucking insane.
Like most company like investment breakdowns, like Morningstar, for example, is a big one. Morningstar will do breakdowns of companies and rate them like by how good they are. And one of the common things that they'll have on a Morningstar report or other companies that do similar ratings is like stewardship. Do they have an example of this? They'll say like, oh, how do we rate their stewardship? Which is basically just a fancy way of saying how good is the C-suite management. And EA has always had outstanding stewardship. They have very capable leadership financially, and from Wall Street's perspective, they're very, very good. And so
yeah, this is what I'm talking about when, like, I've said this before, but mostly referencing crypto, right? There are a bunch of retarded investors who invested millions of dollars into a bunch of cryptocurrency games and never even played the games, never tested them out, nothing, never saw how dog shit they were, because they have zero fundamental understanding of video games. All they see is entertainment industry, video games bigger than movies, I need to throw money at this, and I will make money back. But they don't spend a second actually looking into the actual end product of it, right? This is exactly what EA is. Investors are not the same people playing video games, right? The people making all this money are not the same people looking at the quality of the video games being sold. Because they don't give a shit. All they see is big company, make big money, me want in. EA could literally survive on sports slop alone. Yes. Yes, and that's what makes it such an attractive investment from a business perspective.
I've always thought that it was a solid company. I didn't always like their products, but I always thought they were a solid company. I don't personally think that they're worth $55 billion, but that's, you know, whenever you take a company off of the public exchanges and you're buying them out, you have to offer a premium price in order to get that to happen, because basically the board of directors votes on it.
I'm genuinely surprised they didn't offer them something like 80 billion, right? For a say nothing deal where they just buy them out immediately, they own everything and everyone else can fuck off. Because I think they could have gotten a lot more for it. Right. I think they could have gotten up to like 80, 90 billion for EA.
And typically the board represents the biggest shareholders. And if you're going to take it off the market, you have to be able to say that this is in the best interest of the shareholders. And in this case, I think it is, because I don't think the stock was going to reach this price anytime soon. So I think it does make sense for the shareholders. Now, what is specifically being offered, to get into the nitty gritty specifics, is a leveraged buyout where they're going to sell themselves to Saudi Arabia's sovereign investment wealth fund and a pair.
Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. Okay, so it's not to a private group. It's to equity groups and funds. Huh. That's interesting. What? Oh, damn. So if you want to invest on EA, you got to go through one of the private equity firms. Potentially, if they would even let you. Jesus. This just got a whole lot more complicated.
Of private equity firms in a deal that values the company at about $55 billion, marking the largest leveraged buyout on record. And later in the article, they have a breakdown of some other examples, like TXU for $48.4 billion back in 2007, Atlantia bought out by Edison, I don't know, and Blackstone for $45 billion in 2022. Walgreens Boot Alliance bought out by Sycamore Partners for $39.4 billion. So this will be the largest buyout, leverage buyout, in recorded history.
I need to see those buyouts adjusted for inflation to see what the actual value people are getting out of it. Because the problem is everyone's like, oh, this will be the largest thing ever, but no one ever adjusts for inflation. That's the problem.
So it's a big deal. It's a big deal, which is why it's not just game outlets that are describing this right now. It's also being discussed by Bloomberg and every other outlet that covers finance. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, along with Silver Lake Management and Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners, agreed to pay $210 per share in cash at 25% premium to where EA traded before the talks leaked on Friday. 25%. What do they see? Where do they think the value is? Because if you're paying that much, that's interesting. It's very interesting. It's like if, I found a house I really like. Looks really good. One problem, it's a $500,000 house. $500,000 house. But I'm going to pay $625,000 for it. That's a huge markup. That's a huge premium. What do they see? Why do they think it's worth a premium? Something to think about. JP Morgan Chase & Co. is providing $20 billion of debt, making this the largest commitment for a buyout ever. That's like what, 40%, 30, I think
Okay, so that 20 billion figure you were talking about, it sounds like JP Morgan is providing that, right? For the buyout. This is not they were $20 billion in debt.
Put it in the calculator, I think it's at 36% of the deal is made up in debt. It's a lot. There's a lot. We'll continue and then I'll offer my thoughts. The the record-shattering going private sale is the latest sign that the deal boom expected under the administration of President Donald Trump is starting to take hold, as it cemented the most active quarter for mergers in more than 3 years. It also shows the pivotal role that sovereign wealth from the Middle East is increasingly playing in the biggest deals. Electronic Arts, the maker of EA Sports, FC, and The Sims, is selling amid sluggish growth for the $178 billion video game industry after sales swelled during the pandemic lockdowns. The company, which has experienced numerous rounds of layoffs, has been seeking new areas of growth to inspire players who have gravitated towards free-to-play franchises that are continually updated rather than splash out.
I'm trying to think about this. Where do they see the value in EA? Where do they see the value in this? I think I know what it is. Blackstone was bought out. Well, it looked like it, yes. It's a PR move for Saudi. I think yes, this is a PR move. It makes headline news. But what is the value that Saudi Arabia is going to continually extract out of this over a long period of time? And do you know what I think it is? I think it's mobile games. If EA started just pumping out a bunch of dog shit mobile games based in based on the control of the private equity firms coming out of Saudi Arabia with a bunch of pay-to-win shit in it, they could potentially, I think they could crank out easily like 15 billion a year, probably. If they just took the entire company and hyper-focused on mobile games and just stopped giving a fuck about anything else aside from like FIFA and like the annual sports games every year. The Muslims, they don't want to see Hindus take over EA like what happened with a lot of Alphabet. No, I'm pretty sure this is a money move. I'm pretty sure that at that level of wealth, they don't give a fuck about that. I think they more give a fuck about, let's see how much we can crank out of this. Saudi Arabia wants to be a sport and entertainment hub of the world. Well, I mean, it looks like they're starting to get there. If this move is towards, we want to own the primary modes of entertainment that go to the rest of the world, this is a good place to start. A long time ago, you spoke about the perfect MMO game. I told you it has to be mobile. It's not about the money. It's about access. Thanks to GPUs costing so much, people can't afford it anymore. Yes, I know. And that makes me very fucking sad. And it's very disappointing that anyone would ever want to play a mobile MMO. But yes, if you want to reach the largest target market from a business perspective, you target phones. You target mobile devices. EA Mobile is pretty small. They don't have big games on mobile. For now. But there's one thing Saudis love doing, and that's buying golden iPhones for their fucking 7 million wives. You think all of them aren't playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure on their phones? Now it just needs to get a pay-to-win shop. That's all it needs.
for new titles that can cost as much as $80. The transaction will be funded with cash from the consortium of partners, and Saudi Arabia's private investment fund will roll over its existing 9.9% stake in the company, constituting an equity investment of about $36 billion. The deal comes with a termination fee of $1 billion should it fall apart, according to a company filing. The pact displaces the roughly $45 billion leveraged purchase of the power company TXU in 2007 as the largest buyout on record. It's also one of the largest merger and acquisition deals of 2025 and shows Wall Street's appetite for game-changing mergers despite recession fears and geopolitical concerns impacting the broader economy. Right now, the shares have risen 4.8% Monday morning in New York to 202.73. And as you can see, as they described earlier, their official offer is $210 a share. So that difference between 210 and where it's trading right now, 202, is literally just risk. That's like a literal monetary representation of the risk of the deal not going through. If you remember the Activision Blizzard purchase from Microsoft, as time went by and the deal got further and further along through the regulator stuff, their offer was up here. And over time, the share price, it was down here, and then it shoots up when the deal is announced. Regulators say, we're going to oppose it. It drops a little bit more. And this is all literally just because this is the risk involved. So investors don't want to pay or trade it at the max value, what they offered, because
that is reductive. But he's mostly right, so I'm not going to argue with that.
There's risk that the deal doesn't go through. And if the deal gets canceled or blocked by regulators, the stock price is going to plummet, you guessed it, probably back down to where it was trading. So that gap is literally just the risk involved. But as time went on and the deal got closer to getting approved, it eventually settled up closer and closer to the initial offer price. And that's what's happening here, is that the $8 gap, $7 gap is basically just the risk involved with it. Other gaming companies like Take-Two and Roblox also gained on the news. The reason for that, it could just be that it's seen as a sign of optimism in the gaming space. So investors are putting more money into the gaming industry because they're like bearish on the games industry. I don't know, however you want to look at it. It could also be totally unrelated. It's just stocks. Stocks. So here's the thing. There's a couple of key points.
You want to learn a really neat trick that a lot of people don't realize about markets. And he just made this exact mistake. And it's like, I don't blame him for this mistake. Everyone thinks this way, right? So if you've got any stock whatsoever, this price that you see climbs up or down on two factors, two primary fundamental factors. What do you think those factors are? The first one is narrative. The second one is a factor that's very non-deterministic, that people don't really understand. It's called dominance. That says BGM. I know. Imagine it says dominance, okay? Of the two factors, one for narrative and two for dominance, which do you think has a higher effect on the market? Maybe I should define dominance first. Dominance is the idea that you are tied to a larger global economy, right? And if the larger global economy starts doing better, you will do better. And if the larger global economy starts doing worse, you will do worse. Which do you think is more important, dominance or narrative? So if you're like, here, let me put it this way. If you're some subsector of a particular market, right? That means your video game exists here within the gaming market space, right? Now, if everyone is saying games are hot right now, right, but the economy itself, the fundamental economy that's running things is doing really, really fucking bad, which direction is your share price likely to move? It's a trick question, right? Because this is what happens with dominance. This is what happens with narrative. Narrative is a short-term fundamental indicator that only has hype that lasts for a narrow period of time. When the narrative is good, it works for you in the shortest period of time. But you are beholden to the rest of the sector, you are beholden to the rest of the economy, you are beholden to the rest of the market. And so when the market does bad, so do you. Narrative is games are hot right now, everyone's jumping in games, and then you're wondering why you lost money when you invested in on it and everyone told you it was hot right now. It's because you were supposed to invest in on it before the narrative popped off. Y equals mx plus c. M is dominance and c is the narrative. No. M is both narrative and dominance, just over different time periods. C is just a factor that's non-considered. Right? It's more complicated than just using a straight line graph.
Here to take away. For one, the Saudi Arabian investment fund has been throwing money at pretty much anything that they could get their hands on for years. As you can see in this breakdown, they even describe how Saudi Arabia's investment fund will be rolling in the 9.9% stake in the company that they already have. So they already own just under 10% of EA. Oh, did I say bearish? I meant bullish. Embarrassing. So get it, bear. Okay, anyway. So they already owned a 9.9% stake in the company. They already said, they already owned a huge chunk. And now they're just coming in and they're...
Wait, well, hold on. No, I mean, functionally, how can it be simplified down into linear? Yeah, okay. So you want to simplify it down. You want to linearize it, right? So you could use something like the Taylor series expansion to get that done, which is like, fuck, I can't even remember the Taylor series, but you could do that by taking a bunch of charts. But if you want to look at it, it would be y equals mx plus c. If we want to use basic linearization, the c factor is just a nondescript factor that moves it away from the axis at some point. What you care about is m, so it's m equals a plus d, right, multiplied by a time factor, right? Where and there's also a second derivative. I mean, not a second derivative. There's a second coefficient sitting here, one for D and one for A. A is the market narrative, right? I should have used an N there, but N is too common of a term. Multiplied by some coefficient, multiplied by time, right? And the coefficient affects how time affects the narrative on a short-term value. And dominance will have a different coefficient that will affect time on a different thing, right? You add these two factors together, you can tell whether the larger market's going up or down, and then you narrow out the time period, and what you can find is where's the short bursts that are occurring. It's not 100% like that, but if you're trying to if you're trying to narrow it down, you've got to have a unique equation for M to make it make sense. Take a bunch of Tylenol and the math becomes easier. Exactly. Look, this would make a lot more sense to you if you took 7 Tylenols like I did. Then it would make sense, what I'm saying. But now we're getting caught down in the equations and like what doesn't actually matter. It's the idea that narrative is short term and dominance is long term.
They're going to take it off of the public market and take complete control. Now, their historical approach, of course, it's not just the Saudi investment fund, it's bigger than that, but their historical approach has been to be pretty hands-off. Amazingly enough, you know, the Saudi investment fund's goal is to basically take all this money made from oil and then try to diversify their holdings because, like, the Saudis are not stupid. They know that in 50 years, like, oil will maybe not be the centerpiece of transportation that it currently is. There's going to be other advancements.
They're aware. They can see the EVs moving into the market, and as shitty as EV cars are, at some point they will take over, and the Saudis are not fucking stupid. They understand that they've been milking a golden goose forever for its golden eggs, and that golden oil, Put it this way. The biggest industry before all this oil was found was the whaling industry. When oil was used for petroleum and shit, the whaling industry died almost overnight. The Saudis know that there's a collapse coming. They're not fucking stupid. These people have been doing business for a very long time. They know how to future-proof properly.
In energy production, there's going to be pushes from all sorts of global companies towards like EVs from a car perspective, and then even with international transport, there's discussions on overhauling a bunch of stuff. So they want to diversify. They don't want to have all their eggs in the oil basket. So they're spending a ton of that money buying little shares of a bunch of different things to diversify their holdings. So far, they've been very hands-off. They buy a chunk of EA, like 9.9%, and they just kind of sit on the sidelines. They don't mess with it too much. They don't rock the boat.
Damn, I gotta find a way to make those fucking things. I don't know why it doesn't show up in that one thing. I'm gonna find a way to turn off the Tangier dungeons when I'm looking at shit. But I'll give you this one.
And they just want their cut of the pie every time profits come in. Similar to like Tencent. Tencent, with a lot of companies, will throw money in it and then just kind of sit on the sidelines until they don't. And when they come in and they clean house, it can get dirty. But with this, initially when the news broke, I was like, honestly, it might not change a whole lot. And when you go and remove yourself from the public trading aspect of corporate existence, a lot of the time it can free up your investments from short-term gains, and you can focus on long-term gains. Because the danger with quarterly reporting of financials and stuff, which is what you're required to do right now.
Narrative dominance sounds like everything on the trading posts in Guild Wars 2. Unironically, Sasha, yes. The best equities traders that I've ever worked with are the same fucking nerds that used to leverage the shit out of the auction house in World of Warcraft. Because the same thing they were doing in the video game is exactly how the global economy tends to work. Unironically, it's almost one-to-one with people's behaviors. And if you understand a certain segment of the market, let's say blacksmithing, for instance, you know exactly what people are looking for, when and where. And you know how to hold back on certain resources at certain times and only post sales for certain things in order to pump up the price so that you always profit off of it. And I'm pretty sure the same thing is done in Guild Wars 2.
In the US, if you're publicly traded in the US, you have to report your finances every quarter, so every 3 months. The danger with that is that it then reworks your entire company, where you need to be short-term focused, because every 3 months you have to justify what you've been doing to investors. You can't tell them, yeah, we're gonna have a pretty rough 2 to 3 years, but in the future we'll be great. You can't say that. So you constantly are chasing short-term gains and profits over long-term improvement. It's like the classic Apple example, where they're like, yeah, we could invest heavily in major technological improvements and product revisions and updates and stuff, or we could release the same iPhone we've released over and over again for the last 10 years and just charge $100 more for it and make the
and it works.
Packaging smaller and put it in some new colors, and then
they take out the headphone jack, and they make sure that it's easily breakable, and they make sure that you can go into an Apple iCare's place and you discover that it's actually cheaper for you to buy a new phone than get your old one replaced. There's so many fucking little manipulative tricks to do there, and just watch. EA is already Satan. Of course they're going to do the same fucking thing.
We'll make lots of money and prices will be low. Like it's the same exact thing. It's why Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, he has said many times that he thinks companies should only have to report financial earnings every 6 months. He's like, break it down to 6 months. You'll still have a good finger on the pulse of each and every company's health, but it'll allow them to be more long-term focused. When you're privately held, though, you have none of those obligations, because you don't have to report anything publicly. You're privately owned. So you don't have to tell everybody publicly how you're doing or what's going on behind the scenes. You can just do what you think is best for the company long-term. And that is why, like, on Friday when I heard this news, I was like, honestly, it might actually be good for EA to stop being publicly traded. They won't have to chase the carrot of quick returns every 3 months. But then, like, the details of the deal came out with this announcement, and it's now much more worrisome to me, because $20 billion of the $55 billion deal are debt. $20 billion. That's a lot. Okay, that's a lot of money to owe to a bank like JP Morgan Chase, and they're all.
Yeah, but this is JP Morgan Chase. Do you really think that these motherfuckers would give out that loan if they didn't think they were going to make their money back? Do you, like, JP Morgan Chase is the fucking literal devil when it comes to money. You kidding me? If they're giving out 20 billion, they know they're making 40 billion. They know they're making their money back already. There's no way they put up that money without knowing what the fuck was going to happen next.
Also paying a 25% premium on what professional investment funds and firms thought was a fair market price. On Friday morning, the stock was trading at an effective market cap of like $42 billion. That's what investors thought the company was worth. And then in the matter of hours, because this news breaking, now it's being priced close to $55 billion. So where do the investment firms that are buying this out, where does the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, where does Kushner's Affinity Partners and Silver Lake, where do they see that like 10 to 13 billion dollar gap? And that's not even factoring in the cost of the debt, right? Because you're paying a $13 billion premium, basically overpaying by $13 billion, 25%. And then you're also buying it with a lot of debt. And you don't do that unless you think there is some value other people are not seeing. So my question is, what is that value?
Well, okay. So he's talking about the 25% change, right? So if we looked at the EA stock price, right? In 5 years, they went from 120 to about 172. You're telling me that a 41% growth doesn't make a 21%, a 25% overbuy worth it? A 5-year period? Are you fucking kidding me? That's great. That's fan-fucking-tastic for them. They make that back in 2 to 3 years if they play their cards right. Assuming they just keep doing what EA does. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they would have managed to sell EA for like $80 billion. Money doesn't work the same way as opinion does when it comes to video games. It's just not the same thing. Because if it did, Blizzard would be dead right now.
Where do they, like, what do they see that professional investors on Wall Street did not see? Where is it? What do they see? And this is why I'm worried. Because I think, you know, in the context of what we're discussing, the only thing they see is some chunk of change that's untapped right now that values the company higher. What is that chunk of change? It's probably more monetization opportunities. It's that they don't think the company is utilizing their IP as well as they could.
Yes, it's quite literally, how deep is EA into the MMO space? What's their penetration into that market? Probably pretty fucking shallow. And because of EA's personal reputation for monetizing the shit out of everything, if they all of a sudden went full mobile and full disgusting ultra monetization and cranked out like 1,000 games a year onto mobile devices, they're making bank. They know that there's some single mom with 4 mixed race kids sitting at home not taking care of her kids because she put them in front of fucking Coco Melon for the last 7 hours because she wanted to play Candy Crush. They know that they're going to get money out of that dumb bitch. She's spending the fucking welfare checks that she was meant to feed her kids with on that goddamn game. They know that. It's a lot easier. Think about it this way. It's a lot easier to get $1 out of 1 million people rather than $1 million out of one person.
It's that they think that they could maybe push monetization further on the established IP they have, whether it be Madden or FC. It's like, you don't buy out a $55 billion company and overpay just like, You don't do that. You're buying it at $55 billion because you think it's worth $55 billion. Again, the example I gave earlier is like, you see a $500,000 house. Cool. That's an awesome house. Looks beautiful. I think, you know, with the number of bedrooms it has, it's looking great. But then you come in and you offer $625,000 for it.
Yes, because you're going to build a basement where Jeffrey Epstein's going to be able to do his sick shit down there. So yeah, it adds value. They don't believe. This is the thing, is if you're willing to buy something at $55 billion, you don't believe it's worth $55 billion. You believe it's worth more. You believe you're going to be able to get something out of it. From what I remember, except for Anthem, that's about to die, EA has no live service games. Yeah, Apex, Battlefield. They'll probably turn FIFA into a live service game. Are you kidding me? Imagine live service FIFA. Did you know this? But I mean, you probably guessed this. The biggest esport played in my country, across Africa. The biggest esport. Guess which game it is? FIFA already has a gacha system. FIFA's already live service. Well, there you go. What do you think the biggest esport is across Africa? GTA. No, we do that in real life. We don't need a video game for that. It's FIFA. It's actually FIFA. There are so many fucking gaming tournaments that I've tried to go to over the last 3 years, only to discover that these people are playing nothing else but FIFA. Everyone stuck in the US doesn't understand how big of a deal FIFA is as an esport to the rest of the world. Now the Saudis buy it. They can turn FIFA into a global esport in the same level that fucking Fortnite is. They can make a mobile version. They can have people playing online. They'll have live service shit. They'll have a trashy cash shop. The gacha system, you think it's bad now? Wait 6 months. See where it ends up. I think that they could probably, with FIFA alone as a franchise, crank out billions of dollars of revenue from around the world. And the only place they'll suffer is the US. And then all they need to do is rinse, repeat that same model with FIFA with every other sports game they make. They need to make one game and then just change what the game is. The actual game. And every system around it just falls into place. And they're all good.
Everybody else agrees it's worth 500. You're overpaying by 25%. And let's say you're taking on a
Isn't that gambling? Gambling is haram. Gambling is haram if you are Muslim. Someone else gambling in a system that you made that's not Muslim, that's not haram. That's an infidel giving you money. You didn't realize this, but the Saudis got smart. They stopped bombing buildings and started bombing your wallet.
Mortgage at a time where debt is not free like it was during COVID. You're paying a pretty hefty interest rate on it, I'm sure. Why do you think it's worth $625,000? Like where is that $125,000 gap coming from? What is the opportunity that you think you see that no one else sees? That's what I find interesting about this, because they see some big opportunity that nobody else seemingly can see. And there might be an opportunity there. And this ends up being a phenomenal deal and they make tons of money on it. It might also just be a mistake, because there's plenty of examples of companies doing buyouts of other firms and then it ends up being just a total disaster and it doesn't work at all. So it happens a lot. And it's somebody like, yeah, I see you saying, well, the Saudis have they have the royal money, so they are the type of people to massively overpay for things. I mean, I think in the context of Saudi Arabia's investment pursuits, they are sharks. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They know what they're doing. They're some of the most prolific.
These guys have been doing business like this. This is like their modus operandi. These are like master businessmen. You don't understand it, but these Middle Easterners with money know what the fuck they're doing, and they're not thinking. This is the problem: is American businesses think in quarters, right? European businesses think in per annum. Saudi Arabians think per generation. Right? Their time horizon is way fucking longer than most people, right? They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about 10 fucking years down the line. That's why they're also taking it private, because they know they're going to be able to crank wealth out of this thing nonstop.
And also consistent investors worldwide. And they have deep pockets for sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're just throwing money at stuff that doesn't make sense. They see some opportunity here, some opportunity. So I find it interesting. As far as I can tell, EA, solid business. You can make money on it. I don't know where you make money on it, overpaying by 25%, and then also taking out a crap ton of...
You see what I mean? He's thinking like an American. He's thinking short term. These guys will run this shit at a loss for the next 5 years if they need to. They don't care. Because this is about, where does this end up 50 years from now, 30 years from now, 20 years from now? They're thinking way longer term than Americans think when it comes to these things.
Debt to do it. So here's the other possibility, okay? Because there's two sides of every equation, right? There's the assets and then there's the liabilities on the other side and the equity and everything. And in this case, it's possible that they see an opportunity, not just in increased revenues to make up some of that gap, some of that $13 billion gap. They like, oh, we can make more money if we push monetization here, here, and here. It's also possible that they think that they can cut costs to increase the profit margin.
Of course they can. You know those TikTok videos, those hold on, I'm going to find you one. You see this shit right here?
Come with me on a realistic day in my life in Austin as a girl in tech. I woke up at 7 and got ready, headed to the gym. I just started weight training. And it's literally the hardest workout I have ever done. Anyway, I ended my workout with a little treadmill and then headed back home. Immediately made my favorite smoothie and headed up to my at-home office. I work remotely, ignore the time. It's actually 9:40, but I set it Pacific time since that's where our office is. Today was a packed meeting day. I think I had about 7 meetings. Here I am taking a quick little break to cuddle with Jax and then went back to meetings. Around 1 p.m. I had my lunch break and I loved these spicy chicken rolls from Elizabeth Street Cafe. After that, I took Jax on his little afternoon walk and then went right back to my meetings. I had 4 more meetings to finish the afternoon. I pretty much forgot to film all of that for obvious reasons.
Come! It is time! It is time! Mrs. Tech Girl! It is time! Go home, find husband! You no work here anymore. It's rooftop or husband? I have 7 cousins. One, like you see, have sex with camel. You get free used Lamborghini. Come, in hijab, now. Get out of fucking office, you waste of space. Come. No, we hire someone else. No, we got to keep country in America. We hire black guy who know Linux. We not hire you anymore. You eat fucking fajita and you say it wrong, and then you come here and you fucking pet your dog. That is haram. Get the fuck out of this office.
That's the future. There you go. They're gonna cut costs like you cannot believe. That bitch is gone. No more of that shit anymore.
By downsizing, by doing layoffs, restructuring, and stuff like that. That's also a major component of it too. So after seeing how much debt they're bringing on to get this deal done, and the crazy...
remember how Elon Musk cut fucking 80% of all the employers at Twitter? Like all the employees at Twitter, and nothing changed? You think the Saudis didn't observe that? You think they're not going to be even more brutal? They will put their company on its knees in the sand and make a snuff film while they saw its head off in the dirt with a bread knife. And then restructure it however the fuck they want.
Easy premium.
So all the Dragon Age team are gone. Yes, no, they're gone already. They don't know it, but they got a free trip to Saudi Arabia. And there's just some guy on a soccer pitch right now digging holes in the desert, like in the middle of this dusty-ass field, because they're going to lower them in up to their shoulders and then start throwing rocks at them. It's coming.
They're buying already. Like the $50 billion price tag was a good bit too much. Seeing 55 billion, I'm like, what are we doing? And I think that the odds have skyrocketed that they probably are going to do a lot of restructuring after this. There's added questions and concerns over like censorship and stuff. Are they going to allow for anywhere near, like, Saudi Arabia's not big fans of gambling. Really not big fans of gambling.
Yeah,
are
they're
they going
not.
to allow for like the loot box stuff to happen? Are they going to?
Yes, of course they are, because you're going to exploit everyone who's not Muslim. This is like obvious. Duh, it's good business. 55 billion buyout is insane. Everyone seems to think it's insane. I think they could have pushed for 80 billion and they still would have bought it. I think the Saudis would have gone as high as 80 billion to buy it out.
Do that, or are they going to shut that down? And it'll be like a good thing to censor. It's like excessive gambling in video games. Or are they going to censor all of the other stuff where all of a sudden in every EA game, you know...
Oh, you meant the loan. Well, guess what? JP Morgan and Chase has been playing this game for a very, very long time. They wouldn't give someone $20 billion unless they know they're going to be making their money back. They know exactly what the fuck's going on there.
It's just like super censored to adhere to their guidelines. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But just on a financial side of things, financially, I don't see how this deal makes sense. They are very smart. They're very capable investors.
It's like I said, he's thinking like an American. He's thinking like an American. He's thinking short term. He's thinking in terms of quarters. You got to be thinking in terms of decades. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing. I promise you, those fucking Saudis are so goddamn good at business. You have no idea. That, or we're about to witness the biggest terrorist attack since 9/11 and they're just going to blow up that company.
And as I've said it before 1,000 times, typically in business, if something just does not make sense, it's because you're missing a piece of the puzzle. And in this case, I think we're missing the piece of the puzzle that makes this make sense. Sometimes it is just delusional and it just doesn't make sense and they're just throwing money at something, like some of these AI deals that are happening where you're just like, what? It's like that one AI firm that got valued at like over $1 billion, and it turns out the entire AI that they had was just a call center in India.
Yeah, AI stands for actually Indians. So the problem is with that comparison is EA is an established company that's been around for years and generates billions of dollars every single year. The AI bust and boom is the exact same boom and bust that you see in crypto gaming, just on a way larger scale. It's the same as NFTs. It's the same as the .com bubble. It's the same. Well, it's not really the same as real estate. That's kind of different. What's happening here is business investors, VCs, are a bunch of fucking retards with too much money and too little information. So what they do is they throw shit at the wall until something sticks. They will give 10 companies $1 million each. 9 of those companies will fail, and the one that succeeds that $1 million turns into $50 million. They make back their loss, and then they make way more money off of it, and then they just keep doing it at a larger and larger scale. They use like a shotgun tactic for this shit. It's insane.
And it was just people pretending to be robots, basically responding to prompts. It's totally fake. Like sometimes it's just stupid stuff like that. But in most cases, especially when $55 billion are on the line, you're missing a piece of the puzzle if it doesn't make sense. And in this case, I think we're just missing a piece of the puzzle. They see something that we don't see and that no other investors see. And that's really bizarre. Numbers are made to go up. Yeah, but it's also why it's so interesting, because right now is, by almost every metric, a terrible time to do something like this. Like, debt is presumed to get cheaper in the next 2 years, especially as we most likely...
This is called counter-narrative trading, right? So when someone tells you, when everyone thinks it's a terrible time to do something, it's usually a great time to do something, right? Because what you want to do is you generally want to counter-trade on the ideas and the opinions of people, right? Because when someone tells you this is a terrible time to buy, the price just collapsed through the floor, that's the time to buy. Because 3 years from now, when the price recovers, you're already in the market. You're already there. You're sitting and waiting. If you're buying while something's on its way up, you might just be buying at the top, and then you're fucked. People really don't understand how markets work. It's so fascinating to me. It's so fascinating. Sharia law is meant to apply in country. They're not going to give a fuck about gambling haram stuff outside of Saudi Arabia. They might not even give a fuck about it inside of their country, because they'll be like, it is up to each individual to not be haram, right? And what about the tourists? They still want to play their games when they come here, and the immigrants who aren't, Muslim or whatever, they will take advantage of everyone else. They don't give a fuck. These are businessmen. The only color they care about is green.
Head into a recession and rates start getting cut more aggressively. So debt's about to become cheaper. So why do this right now? It's also like the video game industry's growth has slowed to an...
Also, no, I have no idea who Guild MM is.
Absolute crawl, and by some metrics is shrinking. So why are you spending $55 billion on a company? Like, you're paying a premium for the company. Like, there is some huge component that we don't see that they do, and I find that very interesting. I find it exciting, because I'm like, I want to know what they see. I want to know. I don't know what it is, because I don't think it makes sense, but there's something they see that excites them and makes them think that this is worth paying
it's the mobile market.
Crap ton for.
It has to be the mobile market. It has to be the longevity of it. It has to be the idea that year over year, despite all the bad PR, EA keeps on making a bunch of money. I'm telling you, he's thinking on an American timeline, because that's how Americans think. Quarters. I'm telling you, these fucking Saudis are setting themselves up to be the center of the universe when it comes to entertainment. They've got a bunch of fucking crazy plans, and 70% of them will fail, and the 30% that succeed will take them towards the center of the universe.
And it's very interesting. They don't have to make money on the investment. Saudi investment fund is too big to fail. They are westernizing. Well, that is a component of it. They want to just get money in Western companies. Absolutely. The other piece is that Saudi, but following in that vein, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is a major part of this. Mostly, it seems, because they already own 9.9% of the company. So they already had billions, like what, $4 or $5 billion in the company before the deal even was announced. So they had a huge stake in it. They had their foot in the door. They could go and call the CEO. I'm sure they were on his speed dial as a major holder of the company. But there's also other players here, like Silver Lake and the Affinity Partner Group. And those are people that are not just sitting on oil money, and they are making very tactical investments. So what do they see? What does Silver Lake see? What does Affinity Partners see? What do they see? Because maybe Saudi Arabia's public investment fund can eat a loss and can take this, even if it doesn't really make sense. But what do the other partners in the deal see that gets them excited about it? Hopefully it doesn't affect Battlefield 6 poorly. I think it mainly is just going to probably be reflected in a lot of the underperforming titles will get canceled.
I think BioWare's dead. That's what I think. I think the first thing the Saudis are getting rid of is BioWare. It's done nothing. Dragon Age Veilguard was a gigantic failure. They don't see a future for Mass Effect. Right, I think they get rid of the RPG elements and they're just going to focus on sports shit. UAE is also investing in funding games, 100 million to make a Lord of the Rings Hogwarts Legacy clone. Yeah, of course they are. A Lord of the Rings Hogwarts Legacy clone. You know what they should do? They should take Aladdin and turn that into a Hogwarts Legacy game. It's just a bunch of people flying around on carpets. Arabian Night. Can you imagine how fucking based of a game that would be? And I bet you they wouldn't do some pussy shit like limit the gameplay. It would be the Wizard GTA that I wish Hogwarts Legacy was.
Damn,
it would be so
good.
good.
Do major restructurings and layoffs. I think they're going to really push for probably a good amount of contracted work, and they're going to streamline a bunch of stuff. And I mean, if anything, this type of thing I think is very bad news for a BioWare, because
yes, they're dead.
By every metric, BioWare doesn't make sense right now. It just doesn't. They have released 3 back-to-back-to-back flops that have lost major.
Do you think? I'm sorry, but do you think the Saudis are going to be fucking with all this progressivism? You think they want to see gays and homos all over their games that they own? There's going to be one gay character in any RPG released from EA, and they're going off the side of a skyscraper. Sorry to tell you, that's how it's going to work from now on.
Chunks of money. By no standard in the games industry would any other studio still be open at this point. Any other company would have shut them down after the first flop, certainly the second flop, and the idea that they're open after a third flop is insane. So if I worked at BioWare, I mean, I'd be pretty worried right now. Not so.
I'm sorry, but BioWare keeps on continually failing. They've got a long history of leaning into progressivism over profit. They care more about political narrative, and Saudis don't play that game. Saudis don't fuck with games like that. I don't think they'll get rid of it. I think they'll replace everyone at BioWare, keep the name, and get another Mass Effect out. It's one of the most beloved games of all time. If nothing else, they'll remake it in UE5. They've already made not a UE5 remake, but they've made a remake of all the Mass Effect games, all the good ones already. So I think the only thing they'll do is they'll probably maybe keep those games alive and try and get some profit out of them. Maybe they'll rework the franchise, but I don't see them keeping BioWare. I think they'll eliminate BioWare and maybe just reopen a new branch, or they won't even reopen a new branch. They'll just focus fully on sports games and on mobile platforms, because that's the most valuable thing they can do, is hyper focus on fucking mobile platforms over everything else.
That or anything. I feel for the guys over there working on Mass Effect, but that's just the fact of the matter. So I think that there's probably going to be a lot more shakeups. And I didn't think that on Friday, but that's because I didn't know that they were going to take $20 billion of debt and pay 25% premium to where it was trading before. I don't see how this makes sense. I am not an investment manager with the Saudi Arabian Investment Fund, so clearly they are way smarter than I am or ever will be. But in my humble opinion, I just don't see how the math's here. I don't get it. But I'm interested to see why they're trying it. So
give it 5 years and he will understand.
We'll see. But overall,
that or he'll turn out to be right and I'll be sitting here like, God damn, I'm a fucking idiot. One of the two.
Well, after getting details, what do I think? Do I think this is good for players? No. Do I think this is good for the people that work at EA? No. And do I think that it's
good for Saudi Arabia
for pretty much anybody, even the people buying it? Not really. I don't really see that happening. So yeah. Sad face emoji. That's what I'm feeling. I think a lot of people are going to be laid off. I think a lot of projects are going to get canned and shut down. And I think the projects that survive will probably see some major overhauls to their monetization to try and increase revenues. And that's not even taking into consideration concerns over like censorship and all of the other stuff that comes to play when you're talking about the Saudi investment fund owning something. So yeah, altogether, sad face emoji.
Can you imagine a Dragon Age 5 done by a company you can write? Yeah, that would be great, but they'll never do it. I think... personally, I think the Dragon Age franchise has burned any goodwill it had to the ground with Veilguard, and they would need to restart with a brand new franchise, right? I think there's no coming back for Dragon Age, if I'm being honest. I think they fucked up so hard that they would need to sell off the IP to someone else, and then maybe people would be interested. Or they would have to like rent out the IP or do it in like conjunction with someone else. But I don't think BioWare has the ability and the ballsack to do it. I think everyone at BioWare who has multicolored hair right about now needs to be shitting a brick because they're about to lose their job. And I know that because I have a family member who worked at Blizzard with multicolored hair who lost their job.
You know, that's kind of where I'm at. Took my thing.
That was a good video. Let's see what Charlie had to say about this, right? We'll see what the Moist Master has to say about this, then we'll move on to a new topic, because this is so fascinating to me. What do you think BioWare is even worth right now? Ooh, valuation-wise, I think BioWare is in the shitter right now. I think the problem with BioWare as a company is if you wanted to get it up and running, you would literally have to gut the entire company, peel out every single person who's been involved in all the recent projects, replace every single one of them with a group of people. That means you need to find them, you need to hire them, you need to pay them, you need to put them in an office, you need to give them the ability and the tools that they require to make something unique. I would be shocked if someone bought BioWare for more than $300 million. Actually, let's go risky here. I would be shocked if someone bought BioWare for more than $100 million. You don't think Larry and CD Projekt Red would buy it for the IPs? No, I don't think they would. And do you know why? Let's take this from a business perspective of CD Projekt Red and Larian, right? Larian already has a hyper focus on a specific type of game that they want to build and design in a specific way, right? They proved with Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, and with Baldur's Gate 3 that they have a unique offering that they can give to the world. Why would they want to stain their hands with a franchise that's got shit all over it when they're already hyper-focused down on building the things they care about? Now, CD Projekt Red, on the other hand, could potentially get away with it, I think, because they might have a similar gameplay style, and it would be a better fit for their company. But again, the trouble isn't the money. The trouble is gutting the entire company and trying to replace all the shitty people inside of it who fucked everything up. And I'm sorry, but here's the problem. This is, now keep in mind, this is pattern recognition. But you tell me, how do you think the next CD Projekt Red game's going to go? What do you think's going to happen to CD Projekt Red? That's happened to every single franchise that's managed to pull off all their bullshit. It's going to be slow. The next one might be good. But the one after that, I have a sneaking suspicion. I know what's going to happen to CD Projekt Red over the next 2 to 3 games that they release. And I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. These are Polish women completely different from Western women. Oh, oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that. I wouldn't be so sure about that. You gotta remember, when society starts getting a little bit too good, a little bit too comfortable, these people who start questioning the fundamental basis of reality start showing up. And they always show up in the place of opulence, the place of entertainment. They're not showing up in the fucking... They're not like lining up to be a construction worker, laying bricks, being like, these bricks are a bit too male-centric. We should get some pink ones. No. They show up in the comfortable office jobs. That's my concern, and I hope to fuck. I so hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to sit here and say I'm a retard and I'm wrong. I'd be so happy to say that about CD Projekt Red. But I'm starting to hear whispers. You want a more recent example? Think about how good Ghost of Tsushima was. Look at the second game. Ghost of Yotei. I think it's Yotei. Look how quickly that happened. Between game 1, which was fucking incredible, and game 2. Like that. Polish women are more traditional, but still women. Why not hire the majority of people who will actually use your product? Because you've got to consider the ESG score, you've got to be all politically correct, blah, 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 all of that horseshit. You've got to remember, private companies are beholden to international narrative, not local narrative, more than anything else. They care about the global audience, not the local one.
Is a name that strikes fear into the wallet of gamers everywhere. I still remember...
Damn, Charlie's looking a bit rough there. Maybe it's just because his beard is real fluffy right now.
Remember all those years ago when they were voted I think it was the most hated company in America, or it might have just been point blank worst company in America. Which, they're no saints over there at the EA office, but...
Did you see one of the senior devs for Ghost of Yotei celebrated Charlie's murder? Yes. But that's what I'm saying. These people are not driven by the idea of art. They are driven by the idea of how do I embed my politics into your game. I could not give a fuck what the politics are of the person programming the fucking game. But I want them to program a game, not tell me what to believe. I go to Burger King for a burger, not to be told I'm a racist. If I want to be called a racist, I'll go to my local taxi rank and start yelling the N-word. Then again, they won't call me a racist, they'll just fucking kill me.
I definitely think there are worse companies, but it just goes to show you the pure disdain people have for EA and their practices. They have not been well liked for a very long time. But you know who does like them? The Saudi Arabian government. They like them so much that they are buying EA for $55 billion. Now, it's not...
Let's see what Charlie's take is on this.
Not just the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund that's buying them all on their own outright. They've actually got a whole Royal Rumble going halves.
Hold on. 29 that will be privately acquired. Partners during the 2027 fiscal year. So this is 2 years out. This is a good, preparation time. I think 2027 rolls around, it falls into their hands, and just fucking huge changes happen.
With them, so they've got fucking superstars like Silver Lake and Jared Kushner's affinity partners doing this deal with them. So they've got the superstars of slime here. that are forking up 55 billion clams to own EA. EA was a publicly traded company, but obviously with this will no longer be. They're taking it private. Now, there is one other name here that's very important to this deal, JP Morgan. Because you see, Starman fam, $20 billion of debt is being committed by JP Morgan for this deal, $18 billion of which is expected to be funded at close. Now, what does this mean for you, someone who might just be excited for Battlefield coming out?
These guys have been playing this game for a very long time. So that $20 billion loan, they know what they're doing.
Well, 20 billion is a big number. If you converted that to pounds, it's nearly as heavy as your mother, bitch. Point is, $20 billion is what EA is now responsible to pay back. It's debt.
It's more than just writing off taxes. Obviously, they'll do it. They're going to write off as much as they can. But it's going to be much more than just the idea of let's write off taxes. You don't move billions of dollars in huge chunks like that without having a bigger plan in mind.
What are the ways that you can look to try and squeeze some more juice from the lemons here? More microtransactions, something EA is very famous for. Another strategy EA might employ is layoffs. Again, something they're not a stranger to.
They will.
And I predict, as well as I've seen other people also make this prediction, I'm not fucking Baba Vanga over here with some kind of galaxy brain speculative theory. I would imagine they're going to start closing studios like BioWare. I think BioWare is going to be their big one. Their games have...
Everyone knows. Everyone knows that BioWare's fucked. Everyone knows. Give me a second. Hold on. We're gonna do this right.
BioWare! BioWare, it is time! Come! On your knees, BioWare! Right now! Mashallah, no fucking around! You over there! You, that one, with the purple hair! Come! Time! It's time! We chop!
Happy birthday to you!
What the fuck?
Happy birthday to you!
They're fucked. When I didn't know I was watching a Sunpiker. No, I'm saying BioWare's getting killed. I'm not threatening to kill a senator or sucking a terrorist cock live on stream. That's a completely different thing. But that's coming. That's coming for BioWare. I'm sorry, they're gone. I can see no reason for if they bought EA for them to hold on to BioWare unless they're going to sell off the IP to someone else.
Have not been performing well financially for EA for a while. Anthem into Dragon Age, the Veilguard, they're not crushing it in their sales numbers, and they're a very expensive component of EA. Maybe not in like the grand scheme of like billions of dollars, but that still is a sizable chunk of change, and I think they're going to be checking under every single cushion on the sofa, looking for any way of finding more money to pay back this debt. I would imagine there's going to be even more excessive microtransactions, just desperately trying to claw into your wallet to get you to spend money in their games, and I think there's going to be layoffs and studio closures. Again, EA is very famous for...
How sharp is that panga? Sharp enough.
Gutting studios. So I think that now with this 20 billion debt on the plate, they're going to be even more aggressive. That's what I expect, and I've seen a lot of other people also have that same idea in their head. It just feels like that's probably the direction EA will go. And I also saw it being reported by a lot of outlets that apparently the new EA owners are hopeful that AI will be their saving grace here for cutting cost and boosting profits. Which, again, AI, the entire...
Hey, AI, right? AI is a bad thing, right? AI is a bad thing. I want to ask you a question. Just quick question, right? Just a real quick question. Do you think an AI could replace this? Do you think like maybe an AI can outperform some basic bitch who spends 5 minutes working and 25 hours every fucking day eating a shawarma at her favorite fucking vegan restaurant, right? Do you really think an AI can't outperform that shit? Are you kidding me? Fuck, the AI needs to do nothing and it'll outperform that. It's not even close. It's not even fucking close.
Their purpose right now is just for the sake of saving money on the bottom line by replacing workers. So you don't have to pay salary to people. You can just have AI spit shit out. According to a report that is paywalled, so again, I'm getting this secondhand from all the other reports reporting on that one. But apparently it was stated that AI would be used to boost EA's profits in the coming years and to manage a large debt load on a company that historically carried limited net debt. Now, I've yapped about this strategy endlessly, and it's clearly not exclusive to EA. Every company on the planet right now is scrambling to try and get the fucking AI and a titty twister so they can utilize it to save money.
Yep.
And there's going to be plenty of other gaming companies that will follow suit, even with EA, even if EA wasn't being purchased.
People don't understand this, but EA is actually the perfect company to be using an AI in. They have been creatively bankrupt for the last 2 decades. Do you really think an AI that can't create anything on its own and can only just rehash and remix old ideas is going to be any worse? At least some of the old ideas were good. I'm sorry, AI is the perfect tool to be used by a company like EA. They were already creatively bankrupt. They made nothing new. They just rehash the same fucking thing over and over and over again. When they make something new, it's a pile of dog shit that no one wants. Of course they're going to replace people with AI. The AI replacement is real and happening, and I basically have to pivot into a trade right now if I want to retire or even fucking live. Sasha, what you want to do is you want to find a really, really niche field and spend every single cent you have building yourself up to work in that very, very niche and unique field, only to discover that it doesn't matter and that no one wanted your services. And then you can blow your brains out in the bathroom, just like the rest of us have to do when AI takes over, because we're all fucked. You think that AI streamers are not going to be way more entertaining than normal streamers? They don't need to go to sleep. They can be live 24/7. Do you think that there's not going to be AI videos that outperform anything with the production quality that's out there? What's happening right now is a pile of dog shit, right? But the pile of dog shit isn't gonna, it's gonna be, there's a pile of dog shit made by people, and there's a pile of dog shit made by the AI. And eventually the pile of dog shit made by the AI is just gonna drown out whatever's made by people. And so you're still getting a pile of dog shit. It's just a clanker pile of dog shit instead of a meat bag pile of dog shit.
For $55 billion with $20 billion in debt, they would still 100% be trying to use AI to save money. I'm sure it's already happening across the entire industry right now. In fact, I've got a little tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that Ubisoft CEO is actually just AI. I don't think there's a single human being left in that food chain there at the upper echelon, because there is no way a sentient, living, breathing organism could have come up with ideas as stupid as Ubisoft has. But in this case, again, it's not exclusive to EA. They're just being a little more open about it, I guess, about how they're going to utilize AI to cut these costs. Now let's talk about the new owners of EA. One of them being the Saudi Arabian government. Now, if you've been paying attention to the state of tech, or even the state of sports, or esports, you probably know the Saudi Arabian government's been getting its fingers in a lot of different pies here. They've been exploring tons and tons of different companies and brands to own. And it's been going on for a few years now.
Yes.
A handful of years now. And I don't think it's going to slow down or stop anytime soon. In fact, quite the opposite.
Yes.
I'm confident Saudi Arabian government will continue to snatch up tons of major...
Didn't like a bunch of Middle Eastern companies snap up the entire esports market recently? Am I is that like something I dreamt up, or is that something that happened? I remember there being something about esports being taken up by a bunch of like Middle Eastern companies and like owned by them, like esports teams and events and shit like that. I might be wrong about that, but I think that was the case. I think Saudi Arabia knows where the future is, and I think they're going to aim for it, and they're going to try and be the center of the universe when it comes to this stuff. Esports World Cup is Saudi Arabia run, I think. Yes, I think it is. I'd need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to this. They're planning to take over entertainment, and they're going to get it done in like 30 years, and they will be the center of the world when it comes to that.
Brands and companies across the globe. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go on a bit of a side tangent here. I'd like to blabber a bit. Esports. Many of you know I've been in the esports space for 5 years now. Started with Moist Esports, now Shopify Rebellion. So, as an owner of an esports team, I can tell you firsthand, Saudi Arabian government wants to basically own the entire fucking industry there.
See, hey, remember when I said that the biggest esport in Africa currently is FIFA? So if Saudi Arabia is trying to own all esports, the biggest esport in Africa is FIFA. And they own EA. Does it not make sense that they are trying to become the global hub, the global center for entertainment? And you got to remember the gaming market cap, like the money pulled in by the gaming market cap makes movies year over year look like a fucking joke. It is the biggest entertainment industry on planet Earth. Saudi got to compete with Tencent. No, they don't. They don't. Because they can just make a deal with Tencent and both of them will profit. Why would they fuck over the guys who could help them make even more money? Absolutely not. They're smarter than that.
And they're already getting very close with things like the Esports World Cup. Most recently, EVO, where they're the majority owner of EVO. They have infinite money. So in a scene like esports, which money is a myth, there is, as I've said numerous times, there's no money to be made in esports. It is just an absolute endless pit of agony when it comes to financials. Me, it's fine bleeding money there because I'm doing it under the idea that I'm going to lose this money, but I'm investing in it because what I get out of it is fun. I love the spirit of competition. I love esports. It's why I had Moist Esports, and it's why I now have Shopify Rebellion, so I could expand the esports space and have more.
This poor man is probably losing money every single year owning an esports company. They are so unprofitable in first world countries. Esports is such a non-profit market. It is so overhyped and underdeveloped that it just loses money. It's just a black hole that money disappears down. So I can imagine that year over year, he just loses everything. It's money down a hole. It's money set on fire in the back garden. He co-owns it with Ludwig. Okay, well, same thing. I bet both of them are just losing money on this year over year. This is not a profitable venture.
Things to watch and support more players. I love it. But any business that wants to get into esports hates it because you just lose money.
Yep.
And the Saudi Arabian government obviously noticed that. So what they did is they put the chemical X into the sector, money. They've given tons and tons of teams, tons and tons of money to support things like the EWC and to own things in the esports space because, well, without them, they're not making money, so they feel they absolutely have to play ball. I, of course, have seen this firsthand, but have declined all of that mumbo-jumbo. I haven't been shy about it. I've told you straight up numerous times, I don't watch the EWC. I don't support it at all. I don't watch it in private. Nothing. I think that shit sucks. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but the Saudi Arabian government's got a whole host of issues, human rights violations out the wazoo. I'm sure I don't need to go into a ton of detail into the nitty-gritty. And, honestly, just the whole idea of a
Man, I can imagine the opening act for a Saudi Arabian Esports World Cup being just like a bunch of beheadings. Just like a bunch of bitches being stoned on stage. Okay, now everybody in the crowd, reach under your seats. There should be at least 3 or 4 rocks there. Before we start the event. I can just imagine that. Oh, fuck. Hold on. Ludwig is in some massive controversies himself. Ludwig's just fucking Jimmy Kimmel of streaming. Esport is trying to be like normal sport, but sport isn't profitable for either for teams. Yeah, the problem is the video game industry is not the sporting industry, right? Yeah. Here's how this works, right? We'll use a graph, right? When you've got a sport, right? What happens is you've got a sport that has some level of popularity. And it wanes over time, it goes up and down, but it's about level. And it's been like this for hundreds of fucking years, right? And each season, new players show up, blah, blah, blah. What's the lifespan of your average video game? Your really, really, really fucking amazing best video games. What's the lifespan of that? It's like 20 years at most, right? So video games do this, and then no one gives a fuck about them anymore. How are you going to have an esports arena for a game that has no one who gives a shit about it because some new hotness has showed up? right? You cannot run esports the same way you run the sporting arenas because it just doesn't work the same. There's always some new younger hotness that takes over and gets a hold of everything. So what they would need to do is they would have to have their pulse on having the ability to continually swap out what game is the most popular year over year and run a world championship for that the most amount of people care about every single year. League and CSGO are the only ones that have lasted a long time. Well, FIFA 2, I suppose. Yes, and do you think... Okay, let's look at the history of soccer. How many years has the human race been playing soccer competitively? The human race has been playing soccer competitively for about 160 years. What is the projected lifespan of League of Legends? League of Legends 2009, player base, 180 million monthly active users, peaked in 2022. We're already past the peak. Do you really think people are going to be playing League of Legends 160 years from now? But they might be playing soccer. You can't run esports the same way you run sports. It's different. I'm sorry, it's just different. It's like the behaviors of video games are so up and down attention span wise in comparison to something like World Cups, when it comes to soccer, when it comes to rugby, when it comes to the NBA, even though they call it a World Cup, but the only people competing are Americans. Any sport has such an extended lifespan in comparison to any esport that it's not even in the same fucking realm. Maybe if Riot continually updates and does an Overwatch 2. Oh yeah, no, because Overwatch 2 worked out great. Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
Government deciding that it wants to get its grubby paws around an entire industry and own the entire sector outright, that's fucking terrible no matter what. So yeah, I don't like this at all. I hate what's happening in the esports space where every organization, every game, every brand basically has to suckle the teat of Saudi Arabia in some way, shape, or form. I don't like the direction. Now, of course, I understand why it's got to that point because there's just no money there, but it doesn't change the fact that I don't like it. Now, we have had players on our teams participate in like the EWC because, as I've always said, we don't take player winnings, so them winning doesn't bring money back to us or anything, and I'm not going to get in the way of any of our players going and making their own decisions on how they want to like make a bag or something. That is entirely up to them, all power to them, and there's no ill will there at all. But they've not represented Moist Esports at the EWC or anything like that. I know this is a long-winded tangent, but the point is, the Saudi Arabian government is doing this not only in just like EA or esports, but all across the whole spectrum of technology and entertainment. In fact, just look up things that the Saudi Arabian government, like the PIF, has like percentages of. It's a lot. It's a ton of things. And many other video game companies, by the way. This is just their biggest buyout. This is huge.
This is their biggest buyout so far.
$55 billion for EA is big. And I do think there will be some noticeable changes to a lot of EA games and property. I think we're going to be in an era of even greedier EA garbage, if such a thing is even fathomable.
Yep,
so yeah, overall, I don't think this is going to be like an improvement to EA games or anything like that. I don't think consumers are going to walk away from this kind of deal with a big W for the quality of games we're going to start receiving here. I guess I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I highly fucking doubt that. I think it's going to be net negative changes across the board for EA games going forward. But one other thing I want to briefly mention, I've seen some people talking about EA in this story as if they're like some kind of defenseless victim or something, like, oh no.
Yeah, they're not. Listen, they're the perfect evil company to be acquired by the Saudis because they know that it doesn't matter what fucking move they ever make. It's like just in line with how shitty EA already is. So everyone's just going to shrug their shoulders and be like, yeah, it's EA. What did you fucking expect? If any esports holds longevity, I'd be willing to bet it's League, but still absolutely dwarfed in comparison by traditional sports. It's not even in the same realm, right? And think about, the problem is League is going to be going through an aging player base the same way StarCraft did, right? Back in the day, StarCraft was the biggest thing in Korea. But how many new kids, like how many kids under the age of 20 are picking up and playing StarCraft for the very first time? At some point, the same thing is going to happen to League. People are like, why would I fucking bother? I'm going to go play something else. I'm going to play Fufu Bunny Fighters 6, which just came out last week, because when I put on my VR goggles, the game loads by the hottest character sucking my cock. Right? That's what they're going to be worrying about. They don't care about some old-ass boomer game. We've literally got video games so old that there's literally a genre called the boomer shooter. It's considered retro now. And I'm sorry, but every year in the human, on the planet Earth, humans aren't coming up with a brand new sport that takes over everything and then dies 5 years later. Sports, it's there to stay.
Saudi Arabian government, they got EA in its clutches and there was nothing EA could do. Motherfucker, they could have just said no. They didn't have to make the deal. Like, it's not like EA is the good guy of the story or anything here. Like, this is across the board just greed. Like, it's just absurd. Anyway, though, that's really about it. So, yep.
Yeah, he's right. This is pure greed. They're gonna take advantage of everything, and it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. They're gonna buy more shit, and their plan is 30 years from now, they're gonna own everything. That's the idea they have. They want to be the center of the universe when it comes to entertainment. They understand that oil's probably on a timeline. They've seen EVs popping up. They don't have any other resources, and they know that the whaling industry in history died overnight when petroleum took over. So they understand exactly what the fuck they're doing, and they're trying to set themselves up for long-term success. Because that infinite pile of money doesn't look so infinite all of a sudden when it's like 7 generations old and you've made no new money off of it. It falls apart real fast. You can't keep living in a golden palace forever unless you've got cash flow. It's not about cash reserve, it's about cash flow. That's just how it works. We still need plastic. Man, we've got fucking bacteria that can make plastic now. Eventually, the idea of plastic is going to fall off. But the fuel industry is fucking huge. The fuel industry is bigger than plastic because it's a consumable resource and you get plastic off of the fucking, the crude oil and all of that shit. It's not sustainable. They want to be the center of the universe. They want to have infinitely more money. They want to have infinitely more income sources. They want to be unfucking touchable from an economic standpoint. And they're smart enough to know how to set themselves up for that.